All right, so today we're here talking about Nebula. So Nebula is our cloud managed network platform. Um, so we're just going to do sort of like a brief overview here. It should take about 30 to 40 minutes to go through it all. It's just sort of just a high level overview of what Nebula is and what Nebula offers for you. So to begin with, Nebula was the first full stack cloud networking solution for SMB. So what does that mean? So we're talking about cloud management. So the idea behind cloud management is instead of needing to configure the hardware locally by connecting to it through an Ethernet port or over the network, you manage everything through the cloud. And this is something it's an idea that's been around for a while. Probably the biggest name that you know in this space is going to be Cisco's Meraki product. So Cisco Meraki, though, targeted enterprise, especially back when we launched Nebula back in 2016. So basically, we saw solutions similar to Cisco Meraki and some of the other ones that were out there at the time, but they were all aimed at the enterprise or they were targeting just one or two types of products. It was really similar back then to only be doing cloud management of access points only. So we saw that and said, you know what, this is a great idea. And this is something that in particular SMBs and smaller MSPs we could find very helpful. So that's what we did. We created our own version of that aimed specifically at the SMB space, and full stack, meaning that it's going to allow you to manage not just access points, but also switches, security products, and whatever else we decide to add to it going down the line. So Nebula launched all the way back in 2016. That's how long we've been doing it. Where most of the current SMB type cloud solutions have only been around for a few years. We've been doing this for 7 years now. So quite a long time here for you guys that we've been doing it, and we've been constantly working to improve and enhance it based on your feedback over the years. So the idea in general behind cloud management is to take all of this stuff you see here on the screen that goes into setting up and deploying a new network and eliminating as much of that as we can. And where we can't eliminate it, at least make it take less time. So with Nebula here, installing the equipment takes less because there's no local configuration. You can monitor the devices through the cloud, so you don't need to set up your own monitoring platform by something like SolarWinds or something to keep an eye on things. You don't have to worry about setting up remote access to your customer's site to access the hardware. You don't have to worry about storing your logs, stuff like that. It's all done there to help either reduce what you need to do or to make it simpler and easier to do. So we'll start talking a little bit about the general ideas behind Nebula and the features it offers. So one of the first ones here for us is it helps you get your network up and running in just a few minutes. Um, so because there's no local configuration of the hardware, all you're needing to do is just plug it in. That's all you've got to do. When you're setting up a new customer or a new site for one of your customers, we've got some wizards and other tools there that help simplify the setup process to get you up and running right away. And you don't even have to take the hardware out of the box to start setting things up. At any point, you can go into Nebula, set up a new customer, set up a new site, and many of the configuration options are going to be available for you then, just as generic options such as your Wi-Fi, SSID, security settings, things like that. Once you do settle on some hardware and order it, and the hardware arrives, you simply scan the QR code on the outside of the box, assign it to your customer and the site it's going to go to, and then that will unlock in the Nebula interface device-specific configuration options for you. So you can start configuring those while you're still in the process of packing these up and shipping these to the customer's location. So by the time the hardware gets there, everything is up and ready to go. So in order to use Nebula, there's no additional hardware or software required. Everything is built into our Nebula compatible hardware. So there's no needing to set up special software, run that on your laptop, or set up a server someplace running a virtual machine. There's no cloud keys or CNA devices that have to be plugged in on the local network to facilitate communication to the cloud. There's no having to tell your device that it's going to be cloud managed. It will figure that out on its own. So with Nebula, you do all of your management through our web interface. You simply go to nebula.zyxel.com and log in, and all of your customers and all of your sites and all of your devices are right there for you. So anywhere you've got access to the internet and a web browser, you have access to your customers and their networks. Our access points feature built-in easy-to-use guest access functionality. So the access points themselves have captive portal functionality built in, and many models also have NAT built in on a per SSID basis, making it really easy to just drop in Nebula access points and set up a captive portal guest network without needing to change or worry about anything on the gateway side of things. So if you're going to a customer who's already got a Cisco router that was provided to them by their ISP, you don't have to worry about changing any settings there. We can still do guest access just through the access point. While using VLANs is the preferred way of isolating those guest users from your local network, from your local users, we do have a feature called Layer 2 isolation, which can help isolate those wireless users and prevent them from sending traffic to any of your local devices, effectively isolating them from your network. And again, we also have the ability to NAT on an SSID basis, so you can put those guest users also on top of that in their own subnet. And then when it comes to logging in, we offer all the options you may want. We have the simple agree to a terms of service to get onto the internet. You can generate usernames and passwords that guests have to use. You can have guests create their own username and password to be able to log in. You can even use Facebook authentication to log those users in onto your guest network. And again, that's all built in on the access points. Some of the additional features you'll find in the access points are what you would expect from any, business class product. We offer smart mesh functionality, so not all of your access points need to be hardwired. You can sprinkle in additional access points where you need to fill coverage and have them create a mesh to those APs that are wired to backhaul that connection. We support WPA2 and 3, both pre-shared key and enterprise-based security, and we support 802.11r and K and V for doing fast roaming, making the network suitable for doing like voice over IP or voice over Wi-Fi. On the switch side of things, our switches offer features like intelligent PoE, allowing us to free up additional budget that would normally be reserved for each piece of hardware, so you can plug more devices into the same switch with the same PoE budget. We have the ability here to use ACL rules, VLAN configuration, 802.1x authentication, LoopGuard, DHCP server guard, etc. on those Ethernet ports. And we can virtually stack our switches. So you can configure ports across multiple switches simultaneously instead of having to do it a switch at a time. So next step here, all of your updates, all of your configuration changes are done through the cloud. So we call those over-the-air updates. So you don't have to, again, go local on site. You don't have to VPN and directly access the hardware. Any configuration changes you make in the cloud will be pushed out within a few minutes to the devices themselves. And that includes things like firmware updates, which can be scheduled so you can define in advance what day of the week and what time you want firmware updates to be made available. On the gateway side of things, we have our Easy VPN. Hey, Frank, before you leave here, Frank's asking about emailing me the recording, and unfortunately, I cannot. However, it will be up on our YouTube page. So if you go to youtube.com, look for Zyxel America channel, and it'll be posted there within the next 24 to 48 hours for you. Going back here to the presentation, Oliver, I see your question. I don't know the answer to that question. I don't know what an intra ID is. Maybe you can add a little bit more in there for me and I'll answer it at the end of the presentation if I understand what you're asking. Anyway, back to the security hardware here. So on the VPN side of things, we make it really easy for you to set up site-to-site VPN. Basically, all you do is you go in, you choose the sites you want to network together, you choose the topology you want to use for the VPN. Is it a star topology? Is it hub and spoke? And then we handle everything else in the back end to get that set up. When it comes to remote users accessing the network, if you're using the built-in L2TP VPN client that's built into most computers and mobile devices these days, we have the ability to email out a script that will configure Windows, Mac OS, and iOS devices to automatically connect back to the VPN. So that's just one way we make it easier for you to get those users connected as easy as possible. So Nebula itself was designed from the ground up with the idea that you've got a lot of customers. They might have multiple sites. So we have designed Nebula to make it super easy for you to be able to quickly get to the customer and site that you need to take a look at or you need to make updates to through that web interface. There we go. So you see here, you can go into the Nebula interface. Once you choose your customer, you'll get a breakdown here of all of those sites that they have, assuming they have more than one site. And it gives you a quick snapshot to give you an idea of what's going on. Are there any devices currently offline? How many APs do they have? How many users do they have? And then we've also got Google Maps integration, so you can visually represent where each of those customer sites are on a map, just to make it that much easier for you to do. And then once you choose a site, it takes you into this dashboard right here. All of these widgets on the dashboard are customizable, so you can choose which ones you want to see and which ones you don't want to see. But it can show you things like how many of each type of device are assigned to that site and how many are currently online. If you're using our gateway products, it can tell you not only which users are using different amounts of traffic, but we can tell you which individual applications are using different amounts of network traffic. We can show you which SSIDs are being used, how much of your PoE budget's being used, etc. From there, we make it really easy for you to jump between customers. There's just a pull down menu right up here at the top with a list of all of the customers that you're managing. We call those orgs in Nebula parlance, but that's going to be each of your customers will have at least one org. And then once you've chosen the customer, it'll update this other pull down here with a list of sites for that customer. Simply select the site then, and we'll jump you over to it really quickly. So if you're dealing with a customer with multiple sites, you just need to pull down the site pull down, and you can quickly jump between them very easily. And then all your configuration monitoring options are here on the left side of the interface. So we've got a connected devices view. This will show you all the devices connected to your network, either through Ethernet or wireless. So we'll show those both for you here, and then you can drill down and just choose to see just your wireless clients or just your wired clients. And depending on what view you're looking at, you get access to a lot of information, which again, you can choose which information is shown here. So for instance, for wireless users, you can see what brand of NIC card they're using. You can see which SSID they're connected to. You can see what their signal strength is. You can see what level of security they have is, all sorts of information to help you troubleshoot problems that you may have. On the switch side of things here, when you pull up your switch, you get a nice visual representation of what's going on the ports. You also get charts here showing you data usage over a period of time that you have listed here. And again, we have Google Maps integration, or you can load your own floor plan in and then position the hardware on that. So in the future, if you have to go on site to swap out some hardware or upgrade some equipment, your tech can easily find where in the building that hardware is that he needs to find and replace. On the port side of things here, we easily show you, is a device currently plugged in? Is the plugged in device drawing PoE power? What speed is that connection? And then port configurations, just choose the ports that you want to configure. Again, it can be across multiple switches, and then it just pulls up one interface here, and you can automatically update VLANs, RSTP settings, all sorts of stuff, whether loop guard's enabled or not, and apply that across those ports and across those switches all at once. So everything I've been talking about up to this point is free. So Nebula is a free cloud management platform. I believe we're the only guys still offering a true free solution out there when it comes to cloud management. Now, the free version of Nebula gives you access to an unlimited number of customers that you can manage in our cloud, an unlimited number of sites you can manage in our cloud, and an unlimited number of devices. So it's not one of those things where we say, hey, we'll give you two devices free, and after that you have to pay. No, everything is free in Nebula as far as devices and stuff goes. And we give you access to all of the main features to configure through the Nebula interface. Now, having said that, there are some optional licenses that we'll talk about a little bit later that unlock some additional features, primarily aimed at those of you that are operating an MSP and providing proactive management to your customers. But we'll go through all those features in a little bit. So when it came to doing cloud management, initially we copied the Cisco Meraki route, where if you wanted traditional management, you bought one set of hardware, and if you wanted cloud management, you bought a different set of hardware. We abandoned that after the first few years of doing Nebula, and we've now offered what we call Nebula Flex. So Nebula Flex devices, or devices labeled Nebula Flex, are going to be hardware that you can use for the cloud management, or you can use for traditional standalone management, either way. So instead of having to buy one type of product for traditional management, one type of product for cloud management, you can standardize on one set of hardware, one set of models, and use those for both applications. So the way this works is we send you the hardware by default. It's going to, when you plug it in and connect it to power and an internet connection, it'll reach out to the Nebula cloud and see if you have assigned it to a customer in site. If you have not, it will boot up in traditional standalone mode. If it does see it's been assigned to a customer through the cloud, it will automatically put itself into cloud mode and download the configuration you've set for that customer in site. And at any point, you can switch back and forth between these two modes. So at some point, you want to move this device to another customer where you're not doing cloud management, you can do that. Simply go into Nebula, remove the hardware from the organization that it's been assigned to, and within a few minutes, the hardware will automatically reboot and put itself back into standalone mode. And then if you want to assign it to another site that does have Nebula management, you simply add it back into that customer, and it'll automatically switch itself back into cloud mode for you. Now, this is really key here. The configurations are not shared between the two modes. So when you pull it out of the cloud and put it into standalone mode, it will have the default configuration. So you will then need to go and configure that device locally. So when it comes to our hardware here, we've got a bunch of different hardware. So the main products here, these are what we call Nebula Flex, this top row here. The bottom row are what we call Nebula Flex Pro. So Nebula Flex Pro, all that means is when you buy the hardware, it comes bundled with our Nebula Pro license. It comes with a 1-year license bundled with it. So if you're going to be using one of those optional licenses, you're going to be upgrading your network to Pro. You may want to just simply buy a Nebula Flex Pro device since that 1-year license is already bundled with it. So just in general, regular Nebula Flex devices on our access points here are going to be our NWA series. On the switch side of things, it's going to be the 1915, 1920, 1930 series switches. On our security gateways, the SCR50, that is a Nebula Flex device. And then the USG Flex series. If you buy the standalone version, those are Nebula Flex. When it comes to Nebula Flex Pro, basically all of our access points that start with WAC, WAX, or WBE, or just to make it simpler, just start with the letter W, those are going to be Nebula Flex Pro, so they will be bundled with a 1-year Nebula Pro license. In addition, our Nebula Flex Pro APs are also the APs you would want if you're using a local controller. So we still do offer local controllers for AP management. It's a feature that's built into most of our security appliances. So if you want to use the local controller, you still want to buy a Nebula Flex Pro AP because those are the only APs that will also work with the local controller. On the switch side of things, the GS1350 series, the 2220 series, and the 3800s are Nebula Flex Pro, so they come bundled with that 1-year Pro Pack. And then on the security side of things, all of the USG Flexes that we sell as a bundle with the UTM services, those UTM service license will also include 1 year of Nebula Pro for you. And when you buy an ATP series hardware, those also come bundled with 1 year of Nebula Pro for you. And then our Nebula LTE 7461N, that's a 5G outdoor router. That one also is managed with Nebula and includes a 1-year Pro license with it. So now let's talk about the licensing here. Again, the core version of Nebula is free. Officially, we refer to that as base pack. So when you're looking at the documentations and you see the term base pack, that's the free version of Nebula. We offer the plus pack um, licenses, which are roughly going to be like under $15 per device per year. And then we have the Pro Pack, which is roughly around $35 per device per year to unlock Pro Pack features. So a key thing here when it comes to licensing with these Plus and Pro licenses is every device in an organization needs to have the license in order to enable those features. You cannot just buy it for certain devices on the network that you want to have the features. Either the whole network has Plus or Pro, or none of the network does. So if you've got 30 devices on your customer's network, all 30 of those devices will need to have the license assigned to them before Nebula will enable those Plus or Pro features for you. Now, when it comes to expiration, we send you a ridiculous amount of reminders letting you know that the licenses are about to expire and you need to renew them. But if for some reason you've decided you're not going to renew those licenses, or you just need a little bit more time, once the expiration date hits, you will have 15 days to add the license in before we actually degrade your service and drop you down to the free version of Nebula. So just to give you know, there is basically a 2-week grace period there between expirations of the licenses and when you need to add them in. And again, if you decide you're not going to upgrade the network, you no longer need the Plus or Pro features, we simply drop you back to the free version of Nebula. We don't remove, access to those devices like some other cloud solutions do. Excuse me. So let's talk about those features. What's the difference between free, plus, and pro feature-wise? So we'll start by just talking about what's the same. All of them give you access to our Nebula Cloud platform, which gives you a single pane of glass to manage your devices. And it gives you access to the dashboard, the ability to configure things, the ability to use Google Maps or load in a floor plan. All of that stuff is there for you. That zero touch auto deployment, where you don't have to do anything on the hardware. You simply go into the cloud, assign it to a customer, and it'll automatically put itself in cloud mode. That's true across all of them. Ability to manage an unlimited number of devices, customers, and sites. That's included in all versions of them here. Over-the-air firmware management, that's done on all versions of them here. The ability to use our mobile apps, that's available on all versions. The ability to set up, network function scheduling, such as SSIDs, PoE scheduling, firewall rules, that's available across all of them. The ability to use MAC filtering and 802.1x authentication is available across all versions. Captive portal is available across all versions. So now let's talk about what's different. The first area that's different is the log information. So Nebula stores your logs in the cloud for you. The free version of Nebula only keeps a 24-hour rolling log stored in the cloud. Now we do offer syslog, so you can export the logs to syslog if you want to set up your own server to store those logs for more than 24 hours. If you want to go up to the Plus pack, you get a week's worth of logs stored in the cloud, and you go up to Pro pack, you get a year's worth of logs that will store in the cloud for you. The next one where there's some differences here is the number of admin accounts per org. So in Nebula terminology, each of your customers is probably going to be their own organization. So for each customer you have, with the free version of Nebula, you can assign 5 admin users to that customer. With Plus Pack, that bumps up to 8. And then with Pro Pack, you have an unlimited number of admin accounts per customer that you can set up. The next one is we also offer a cloud-hosted authentication server. This is the server you use for doing MAC filtering, and you can also use this filter for captive portal authentication. You can use this for 802.1x authentication. You use this cloud database for DPPSK. So that is our cloud-hosted database. The free version gives you 50 entries in that database. Plus Pack gives you 100 entries in that database, and then Pro Pack gives you an unlimited number of entries in that database. Now, if you're doing 802.1x authentication, you can always set up your own Radius server in order to be able to use that. Instead, if you don't want to use our cloud-hosted one, but you do have to use our cloud-hosted database for MAC filtering and for DPPSK. Some other differences here for you. We offer advanced firmware scheduling with Plus and Pro Pack. So with the free version of Nebula, you say, hey, I want to do firmware updates Sunday at 2 a.m. That's when it'll do it. With Plus and Pro Pack, we offer much more granular schedules. So you can go in and set up schedules based on the type of device. You know, we'll do switches on Sunday night, we'll do access points on Thursday night, or you can even go in and set up individual schedules for individual pieces of hardware on the network. Plus and Pro Pack also add the ability for advanced reporting, including the ability to set up automatically emailed reports that you can send to yourself or your customers. And if you are sending these reports to your customers, you can add your logo into those emails, so they always get that branding reinforcement when they open those emails. Plus and Pro Pack also offer what we call automatic topology view. We will create a visual representation of all the Nebula hardware in your network, showing you what's connected to what. So again, if you're troubleshooting things, you don't remember which access point's connected to which switch, you can go to automatic topology view and see, okay, this access point is connected to this switch, which is connected to this switch, which is connected to this port on the gateway type of thing. So it's a nice handy feature for troubleshooting. The ability to email alerts when devices go offline, that's a Plus or a Pro Pack feature. And the ability to use Wi-Fi vouchers is a Plus or Pro Pack. So Wi-Fi vouchers would be similar if you're providing some sort of paid hotspot access to the guest network. That would be a feature that needs Plus or Pro Pack. And then a bunch of Pro Pack only features here for you is the audit logs, the ability where we will store in the logs what features were changed and when, again, to help you with troubleshooting problems. You can say, oh, wait a minute, this was changed 6 months ago, so that can't be what's causing the problem today, versus, oh, wait a minute, somebody changed this last week. Maybe that's causing the problem we're seeing today. The ability to clone sites within an organization to copy them, to make a template to change multiple features across multiple sites at the same time. Pro Pack feature. The ability to back up and restore switch configurations is a Pro Pack feature. The ability to open a ticket directly with our headquarters for Nebula support, that is a Pro Pack feature. Advanced AAA functionality through an external Radius server, that is a Pro Pack feature. Our artificial intelligence or machine learning algorithm for doing Wi-Fi health and configuration changes, that requires a Pro Pack. Programmable SSIDs, that requires a Pro Pack license. On the switch side of things, some of the more advanced switch features and advanced IGMP settings require a Pro Pack license. On the gateways, you have the ability to do packet capture through the cloud, that requires Pro Pack. And then if you're looking to do collaborative detection and response, that requires Pro Pack. So I know it's a lot of features. Hopefully that sort of explains those for you. We have another type of license also called an MSP license. So the MSP license, where the Plus and Pro Pack are a per device license, the MSP license is a per admin account license. Basically, this is a license you purchase, you assign it to a admin account, and it unlocks extra features just for that admin user. So generally, most of our customers buy one of these and assign it to a central or the main admin user. But you can buy these, if you have a lot of admins, you can buy these for each different admin. So it unlocks some additional MSP-oriented features, as the name implies, for you here through the cloud. So one of the views it gives you is an MSP view. It's similar to that org view, but this is done for all of your customers. So it gives you a single place to go to. It will show you all of the customers you're managing, and it'll give you a quick snapshot of the health of all of their sites, how many sites they have, things like that. It unlocks some additional features here for you. It unlocks the ability to set up teams. So instead of needing to assign individual admins to each customer of yours, you can just create teams and just assign or remove the customer from those orgs, or assign and remove admins from those teams to remove them from those orgs. So it's just a way, if you have a lot of admin accounts, it makes it easier for you to be able to manage and add and remove people from different customers as your employees turn over or responsibilities change. Another big feature here for you is if you have the MSP license, you can get email alerts, those push notifications through the app or the email alerts on all of the sites or all of the customers you manage, including those using the free version. So usually that was a feature that required the customer be Plus or Pro. If you get that license and assign it to an admin user, you now have access to those features even on the free versions of Nebula for those push alerts or email alerts. It also gives you the ability to clone organizations when you're creating a new organization to make it easier for you to set up somebody new. So those are the main things there. Oh, one other feature here I forgot to mention, my apologies. If you're allowing your customers to access Nebula to keep an eye on the network, with the MSP license, you can go in and replace the Nebula Zyxel branding in the GUI with your own company's logo. Something else nice, kind of nice to have there for you. So on the security side of things, we also offer our AP Connect and Protect licenses. So these are an optional extra security that essentially provide lightweight UTM type features just on our access points. So why would you want this? Well, again, something we run into a lot is we have, customers that are upgrading, for instance, the wireless network at an existing customer, but they don't want to upgrade the switches to Nebula. They've already got a gateway that's configured and works for them. They don't want to replace the gateway, but that gateway doesn't offer UTM services. So this way you can add UTM type protection to your wireless users without needing to upgrade the gateway on the network there for you. You can do this on a per AP basis. So unlike Nebula Plus and Pro licensing, where all devices have to have a license, with this, you can just enable it on certain APs. Maybe you just want it on APs that touch a lobby area where there's a lot of end users, and you don't want the protection necessarily in your warehouse or in the office space. You can do that with Connect and Protect Plus. So Connect and Protect is the main root version of this. That works on the NWA 1123 ACV3, the WAC 500 and 500H. We also have Connect and Protect Plus, which it does the same sort of UTM light filtering, but it also adds the ability to do bandwidth throttling on an application basis. So you can set up different bandwidth rules for your wireless users based on individual applications. And right now we are running a promo out there on the NWA 110AX and the NWA 210AX, where when you buy the CNP version of the product, so there's two SKUs that are available through distribution. So you want the one that's model number dash CNP, I think it's CNPP, Connect and Protect Plus. When you buy that, it's the same price as the non-bundled version for the moment. And we're giving you, instead of 1 year of Connect and Protect bundled, we're giving you 3 years of the Connect and Protect Plus license plus 3 years of Nebula Plus. And that's while stock lasts. But that should be available for distribution. Again, it's not the standard version of the SKU. You want to buy the CNPP version of the SKU that should be available through all of our distributors. And then just let's talk about some questions we get just in general when it comes to cloud management for you. So Nebula is not something that you run on your own server. It is something that we host for you through Amazon Web Services. So it's not on our own servers. We haven't created our own cloud platform. We are using AWS, which is probably one of the most reliable, most robust cloud platforms that's out there for you. We get a lot of people asking, well, can I use this with HIPAA? Can I use this with PCI compliance? And the answer to all of that is yes. You can even use it with Europeans' GDRP, which is one of the most strict privacy frameworks that's out there. And the reason for that is very simple. None of your customers' local traffic is hitting our cloud. None of your customers' internet traffic is hitting our cloud. The only communication between our cloud is with the Nebula hardware itself and is only management traffic. So firmware updates, configuration changes, log information. That's the only data that's touching our cloud. Local traffic stays on the local network. Internet traffic goes directly out to the internet. That seems like that should be obvious, but we ran into not too long ago another solution out there that was cloud management, where all traffic had to go through their cloud. So none of your customers' traffic is touching our cloud, and for that reason, it works just fine with PCI and HIPAA here in the United States or GDRP in Europe. provided everything else is configured and set up correctly, obviously. Another question we get is, well, how secure is that management traffic going out to your cloud? So again, rather than create our own in-house, encryption standard for that, we are using an industry standard called NetConf, NETCONF, and that encrypts and handles the authentication and validation of all traffic between Nebula compatible hardware and our cloud. So just to summarize for you guys, Nebula makes it simple and easy for you to set up new networks, makes it really easy for you to manage and configure those networks, reduces the amount of time you have to spend setting up and configuring your network, gives you a single place that you can go to see all of your customers and all of their hardware. And it's very affordable, considerably cheaper than most other solutions offering a full stack solution for you, especially with our core version being free. So if you want to play around with Nebula, you can just go to nebula.zyxel.com, which is where you would go to log in to access your sites. There is a button on there to go to a demo that we've got set up, which has got 3 hotels that are running some Nebula hardware in them that you can play around with. If you are a authorized resale partner, you can reach out to your salesperson, and I believe we're still doing 60-day demo kits as stock allows. And then just here to summarize for you guys, we have a YouTube channel. There's lots of different Zyxel YouTube channels. So the one for North America is called Zyxel America channel. Most of our webinars are recorded and then uploaded there. So if you missed one or had to drop out, you can go there. Or if there's a upcoming webinar you want to get to, chances are we've done that webinar before, and you can just go find the recording if the time that the new ones coming up isn't work for you. We also have video case studies, some best practices videos, other things like that. And then if you want to find us on LinkedIn, we are at Zyxel US channel. Again, any questions that you have, send them in now for the question and answer interface. Oliver, I will get to yours in just a second. So far, I only have questions from Oliver. So if you have some questions, go ahead and send those in now. Start typing them up. I also just want to highlight for you guys, we do have user forums now. I think it's just forum.zyxel.com or forums with an s.zyxel.com. They're set up to be user forums for you to talk to your other Zyxel installers and users, but they are monitored, and oftentimes you will see posts from our R&D and tech support teams there for you. The product management teams keep an eye on those to look for what new features people are looking for to help us prioritize what features to work on. And it's often the first place that security alerts and firmware notes are uploaded to. So it's a nice tool, even if you aren't interested in talking to other people, just to stay on top of the security alerts and things like that. So questions I only have here was from Oliver. So Oliver was asking about using Entra ID to authenticate with the ESSIDs. So Entra ID is the name for the Azure, so Microsoft's cloud-hosted Active Directory. Rather than use Radius, he would prefer to use Azure Active Directory to the same identity to log into SSID. I don't think we do. I think we have to use a Radius server for that. If you can send me an email, my email's up there on the screen, Sean R, SHAWNR at Zyxel.com. I can double check that for you, but I don't think we do. But yeah, I can double check that with Nebula there for you. Or you can just email your salesperson, David, Jacob, or Andy, depending on what region you're in. Send them the same question and they can just forward it to me if that's easier for you. But either way, I can look that up and confirm for you. The next question here from Oliver also was, what is the best switch to complement the NWA 210AX-CNPP access points? So the NWA 210 access point, I would probably look at, now I'm just gonna, I mainly focus on access points. Try as our switch guy. So again, this might be something you just want to email your sales guy. They might be able to help you out. But off the top of your head, or top of my head, the main things you're going to, I can't give you a specific model, but the main things you're going to be looking at here, is probably the PoE budget, making sure you've got enough PoE budget to power up all 10 of those. And then I would probably look for something that's got a 10 gig uplink port, just due to the speed here of those access points, so that you've got enough throughput coming out of that switch so you don't end up throttling your wireless users. So one of the XGS series switches is probably what I'd be looking at, maybe like an XGS 1930 series maybe. But again, that's probably something the sales guys can better help you out with. Yeah, just off the top of my head though, that's what I would suggest. And that is it for questions. So I'm going to go ahead and end today's webinar. If something else pops into your head here after I close it, just reach out to your salesperson, and they'll be able to get you an answer, whether they can answer it themselves or they need to bring me in or bring our sales engineer in, or you can just email me directly. Again, it's seanr@zyxel.com. Thank you for joining us. I hope to see you at one of our future webinars. November 9th is when I'm doing the introduction to our new Wi-Fi 7 access point. So that might be something you want to join. It is a expensive little guy. And I think there's probably a lot of questions in general as it comes to Wi-Fi 7. So I'll be happy to answer those then. Thank you, everybody.